I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Cara Mae Melton up to the podium, please. Thank you. We'll put you in the slideshow, and you'll probably hear my little timer go off, and I'll just kind of work my way up here. Sure, yeah.
Let me bring it up.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was already over there. So that'll go right here. Oh, turn it on too. Man, it's all out of sorts
Set me up
today.
for success here.
Yeah. I'm your comedic relief. All right. There you go. This left and right.
Just back and forth.
This is part of the 6 minutes. Right?
All right.
This is a little bit of a startup here.
Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? Good, good. As he mentioned, my name is Cara Mae Melton. I'm from Hampton Roads Hyperbaric Therapy. This presentation might be slightly different than some that you're used to before because really this is a story about an unhealthy wellness business. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? An unhealthy wellness business probably makes even less sense that I would buy it. But I'm going to tell you how and why, and maybe you'll connect with it, maybe you won't, we'll see. Okay, so first of all, I was in the Navy. After the Navy, I've done a lot of things before that, lived in Europe. After the Navy, I joined a company called lawinfo.com, which is now a Thomson Reuters company, and I was the COO there and VP of Business Development for 8.5 years. After that, I founded a company called Care Conscious that was all about empowering and educating family caregivers to assess and address their own needs online. Also recently founded Heal the Warriors, which is a nonprofit focused on helping our service members and first responders recover from traumatic brain injury. So when you take a look at this, really I had absolutely no business being in the wellness business. I had no experience, just no business. But I got into it anyway because I found out about hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And although we provide hyperbaric oxygen therapy, near-infrared light therapy, acupuncture, and massage, today I'm going to focus on the HBOT part, the hyperbaric oxygen therapy part. Just by a quick show of hands, who knows what hyperbaric oxygen therapy is? Woohoo! All right. Anybody have gone through hyperbaric oxygen therapy? You did? Okay. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy, it consists of breathing 100% oxygen at a prescribed depth below sea level, simulated in a dive chamber like this one, for a prescribed amount of time. And there are a lot of benefits to hyperbaric. It really helps the body heal itself naturally. It increases stem cell production. It helps upregulate the systems in the body that need to upregulate. It helps downregulate those systems that need to downregulate. It helps good bacteria thrive and helps that to kill the bad bacteria. It does a lot of things, and it's been studied for years and years and years. So even though I had no business getting in, I got in anyway. I got in because of the 4 Ps. Anybody know what the 4 Ps are? Good, because really, I made them up about 5 days ago when I was looking for this, figuring out what to say in this presentation. The first one was my personal experience, and a lot of this comes down to my personal experience. I think a lot of you probably have very personal experiences that propel you to open businesses and to propel those businesses. So my personal experience. Passion. Passion really came into play with this. Not just from my personal experience, but what I started seeing when I was watching other people go through this therapy. Also, pig-headedness. I am a bit pig-headed. Anybody that knows me can tell you that. That did come into play. Now some of you may think that's probably not a reason to get into business, but I'm here to tell you for me, it was. And then potential. Of course, everybody needs to see that there is potential in the business that they're really looking at. And really need to research that. Okay, so the first thing, my personal experience. I'll tell you, my husband had a traumatic brain injury, mild traumatic brain injury. And I was really tired of the course of treatment. Over years, I watched as my husband became a former shell of himself, a gray version. I watched all the pills that he had to, choke down because he had a headache. There was a pill for that. Because he was depressed, there was a pill for that. Because he was anxious, there was a pill for that, and I could go on. I didn't like it, and nothing was getting better. It was only getting worse. And I thought, there's got to be something better. And I learned that hyperbaric was actually helping the brain heal, something that I had been told couldn't happen. Once the brain tissues were dead, once the brain was dead, or the cells were dead, that was it. Well, it's not always the case. And I learned that hyperbaric was really working. I started diving into all the studies to figure out what was going on, and realized that this really was researched quite a bit. That made me happy. And then I was pretty angry again. I was angry because I realized that although it was working, people did not have access to it. There were only 2 clinics in the entire state of Virginia that would treat for mild traumatic brain injury using hyperbaric oxygen. One of them was Hampton Roads Hyperbaric Therapy. So I started talking to them, and I realized, as I mentioned before, this was pretty much an unhealthy wellness business, and the fact that it was not profitable and had never been. And when I say profitable, I'm using that loosely, they had never even made more money month over month than they had spent. So not only did they pay off their initial investment, they never made money month over month. They didn't advertise, they didn't take any insurance, and they didn't have many clients. We had a 4-man chamber, and it was barely ever full. And this was considered off-label, not covered by insurance. So I was like, gosh, what is going on? So I had the opportunity to start working there, and I was excited to do it. I took a huge pay cut, it didn't matter, because I really wanted to get involved. And I saw that patients that had no hope were going in there, and they were having hope. They were getting better. They were feeling better. They were living better. And it was pretty amazing. And though this is not a miracle, it was amazing. And I started seeing the people and connecting with them. This is Hunter. He had developmental issues. Matt, for years, he pulled out of school because he had a concussion that was never treated properly. His mother didn't know what to do, and she fought for him. Mitch, guy that was in the Air Force, had a brain injury, blast exposure, and IED. Amelia was dropped on her head when she was a baby and was never the same. And Thomasina had multiple sclerosis and was just determined, no matter what, that she was going to get better, and not just only through traditional medicine. And then the pig-headedness came back. And I was mad again that all these people, that what we were their last hope, not their first or even in the middle part of what they were experiencing, their health issues. We were like the last thing, the last-ditch effort. And I thought, that is just, doesn't make any sense. Our country would only have 14 covered indications. So insurance only pays for you to get hyperbaric in 14 different health issues. In other countries, there are so many more. Doctors are not learning about hyperbaric. So when people are actually doing their own research, they would go to their doctors, and their doctors had no idea what it was about. And it wasn't easily accessible, as I mentioned before. I really felt that this was a backwards way to think. Health and wellness is really important. We don't spend a lot of time, energy, or money on it. We'll spend money on treatment after we get sick, but we are not paying attention, and we're not looking outside of the box, the pill box. And that was just really backwards to me, and I felt like I had to do something about it. I had to get involved. But before I got involved, I had to look at the potential. And I realized that countries all over the world are using hyperbaric, from as many as 60 different indications. For all you math majors out there, 60 is definitely greater than 14. I felt like we were at a tipping point in the industry because people have been fighting for this for over 25 years. Hyperbaric has been in existence since the 1800s. But over the last 10 years, I really, after doing my research, started realizing it was getting more and more traction, and I felt like we were going to be at a tipping point. And I also saw that a shift was starting to occur, not just in the industry, but in people's minds, that people are slowly but surely looking for other ways to help themselves.
There you go. That's your 6 minutes.
Okay. As I mentioned, the potential was important. It wasn't profitable, didn't advertise, didn't take insurance. That meant it was a cash-based business. And a 4-man chamber that was never full meant that I could add people, I could add clients, I could add revenue without additional overhead, and that was really important. And it was off-label. So this was a chance to really make a change in a climate that was ready for it. And there was potential for advancement, and the revenue was there. I could pay off the initial financing over time. So far, I bought it in January. It was the first month in January we actually made more than we spent. Changed to a benefit corporation, which was a good idea for us. We've stayed black for these first 2 quarters. We've been profitable month over month, spending, making more than we've spent. We're not out of the woods yet. We want to keep giving people low-cost options and access to hyperbaric and other natural tools. We want to empower people to really seek and use multiple natural modalities. So I have an invitation for you, maybe a challenge, going back to my pig-headedness. I really challenge you to take a look at your own health and wellness. Think outside of that box. And also, use the companies that you're in right now, or you're getting ready to build, or you're getting into your next big adventure. Use that as a platform for change for the better. Thank you. Can I get my coffee?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Well, no, actually, gives a second for me to point out, like, we've seen a couple of different kinds of approaches. Last week, Sean gave a really outstanding presentation, like, totally geared to, like, this is what my company is and why you should invest in it. And another great technique is storytelling. And so that was a great story, and your passion really came through. So what questions do you have for Kara?
How much does it cost, and how many treatments does it take? I mean, obviously, somebody's relative to the extent of someone's injury or disease, but tell us more about the cost and the healing process.
Sure. As far as the cost goes, we charge $150 a treatment, which is pretty low comparatively speaking across the country. We give amazing discounts for veterans and first responders as well and their families. As far as the treatment protocol, you're right. It does depend on what the health indication is. Hyperbaric's not a miracle, and it's not a fast cure. It does take time for the body to realize the benefits. It could take anywhere, from 10 treatments for something that's more mild to the TBIs, traumatic brain injuries that we deal with. There are at least 40 treatments, a 40 treatment protocol. So it takes commitment on the part of the person. It's not a quick fix. It really isn't. But it really has some amazing benefits for people. And as far as the healing process, I talked just briefly about it before. Hyperbaric has been studied for years and years, and not much in this country compared to others, but they found a lot of different things with a lot of different indications. But to sum it up best, it really does help the body do what it's supposed to do anyway. So what happens, I'll use brain injury just as an example. Either through illness or disease or injury, our cells and our tissues get damaged. And when they get damaged, there's a blockage, and the blood can't get to the damaged areas, which means typically in a regular situation, the oxygen can't get to the damaged areas. Without oxygen, the cells in our body can't thrive. There's no energy, they can't power up. What hyperbaric oxygen does is, under pressure, breathing 100% oxygen as opposed to 21% in the normal air, under pressure, the oxygen is able to go through everything. Not just be carried by the blood cells, but to go through the tissue, to get to the cells, to go through bone. This helps people improve after they've broken bones 3 times faster, 5 times stronger. So the oxygen is able to really get into and saturate the tissue in a way that it can't do just popping through the bloodstream. And so because of those things, it really helps to, like I mentioned before, upregulate, downregulate. It's an amazing detox. I'll tell you a funny anecdote is that there are clinics, and we don't do this, but there are clinics around the country that if people go and have too much to drink the night before, they can get in the chamber the next day and literally they come out sober. Because it really detoxes. It speeds that process up of your body processing all of that alcohol, and then you get out of the chamber sober. It's used, one of the 14 indications, and probably the most common, couple most common uses are wound healing. So you can watch it heal wounds. You have a huge wound that won't heal otherwise, they can put you in a hyperbaric chamber, and it is covered by insurance. But the problem is, you have to be practically facing amputation before insurance will actually pay for it. And that's, right there is the crux of the problem. because you shouldn't have to wait until you have no other options. And there are people out there that would use this and they would gladly pay out of pocket, but they don't know it exists and it's not easily accessible. Does that
Yes, sir.
answer your question?
Yeah, one quick follow-up question. I'm in shape, I'm healthy, I don't have any health issues. If I wanted to add it to my repertoire of being healthy, say once a month, would that be something that would be worthwhile to someone like me?
Okay, so my opinion, absolutely, and lots of people do that. You wouldn't go for one treatment. You'd probably go for at least a series of 5 to get any type of benefit. One treatment's not really going to
But
do
did you do
a
it
whole
once
heck
a
of a
month
lot.
over 5 months of that?
No,
Okay.
no. You'd have to do it a minimum of 5 treatments. This is great for pre and post surgery. If you're getting any kind of surgery, you go in once before surgery, and then 3 to 4 times after surgery, and it really helps heal too. But yes, it is. A lot of people find that the brain fog clears. I can attest to that. Their recovery, especially if they're working out very hard, is improved. Then thus their ability to perform is further enhanced because they can recover properly and better and faster.
Yes, sir.
2 quick questions. Are there any after effects of the treatment? And the second follow-up, real quick, is what kind of liability do you have if something happens during the process? I mean, you're not a medical doctor, at least that's what you say.
Uh-huh. Okay, so the first question.
Are there any after effects?
After effects. Okay, so not really. Some people get a little tired, some people get a little wired. Just depends on what's going on in your body. It can enhance the effects of some drugs that you're taking, so you want to be careful. Because it's a detox, it could lower blood sugar. So you have those types of effects. There are a handful of contraindications, so we actually make sure that people are not having those particular types of health issues. COPD is a big one, especially if it's really advanced. We don't want to have any issues with the lungs in compressing or decompressing. But honestly, it's a pretty safe treatment. And as far as liability goes, no, we don't have to have a doctor on staff. A doctor has to prescribe hyperbaric oxygen therapy. He does not have to be there to administer it in an off-label setting. Now, hospital settings with Medicare covering the treatments, that's a different story. But for us, it's absolutely perfectly legal to perform the treatment under the orders of the doctor that prescribes it.
And you just have regular other kind of business insurance to
We
protect
have
your
professional liability and general liability insurance. And we have medical directors. We actually have 2. We may even take on a 3rd. So we do have that. And in our building particularly, we do have a doctor right in our building, literally 20 feet from where the chamber is. He is one of our medical directors, and it's an added benefit for us. We like that. It's not required, but we like to have it. Problem is, if something really did go wrong in the chamber, somebody had a heart attack or is going through a seizure, you can't bring them right up anyway. You can't do it because you have to bring them up slowly back to atmosphere, because of their lungs. You don't want to have them have the bends just like divers do.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you have a 3 to 5 minute process where anybody, whether it's a doctor or a surgeon or nurse or little old me, nobody can bring them up faster than those dive tables and those protocols. So that's one reason that they don't have to have a
All right,
doctor.
we'll go here, and back.
Great presentation, and I love the passion, and I even love the pig-headedness. So 2 different ways. One, obviously one of the challenges here is just to get it better recognized by the medical community. Have you thought of teaming or getting involved in VA research, the different SBIRs and different kinds of research, National Institute of Health, those kinds of things, because there's a pretty big VA community here. That might be a way that you could actually influence the VA to, for instance, for traumatic brain injury to provide, because I think there are research people looking to push that. So.
There are. The VA is a really special, and the DoD is a really special. they're special organizations. There have been studies done by the DoD that have been flawed in design, and we are still, the DoD community, the VA community, Veterans Affairs community, is still pulling from those, that research, and that's unfortunate. It's a hurdle for us. To be more specific, as far as have we thought about those things, absolutely. The steps that we're taking is we just formed a teaming agreement with EVMS, and we're working with them under their IRB, and so we will be able to do research with them. I'm working with Dr. Newman over there, who is doing transcranial magnetic stimulation for traumatic brain injury and PTSD. We will be working with them.
That's good. So the other part was a lot of people use CPAP, which is positive pressure, and a lot of the reason is because of reduced oxygen when you have sleep apnea and things like that. Is there a way you could move from hyperbaric, have a horizontal movement into supplying pure oxygen with CPAP to, bringing oxygen to, providing the oxygen to the home as opposed, and having partial benefits? And
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is it's out of the scope of what we want to do.
Okay.
But it's a good observation, and it would be a nice horizontal move. I just think it's out of our lane.
Smart answer. Yes, sir. And then,
How long is a normal treatment? How long does it last? An hour?
Yes,
What is it?
it's an hour. It takes several minutes to get what I call down to depth, and then several minutes to come back up, so that's added on. But the treatment time typically is an hour. Now, for other indications, for some very severe acute issues, the treatments could be as much as 90 minutes. For the majority of the people that we see, it's 60 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say I really commend you, not only for your passion, but you saw a problem and you figured out a way to solve it and turn it into a business. And that's amazing. That's the perfect way to start a business. And I say that because I'm the director of the Veteran Business Outreach Center at ABU. We start, launch, incubate, and grow veteran-owned businesses every day.
Oh, fantastic.
So, we'd be very interested to talk to you because I think there's a lot of resources we would have available that could help you.
Fantastic.
But I have about 5 questions, so 3 of them I'll take offline and get
Okay.
with you later. I have a medical background. I was a Navy hospital corpsman and LPN before my career went towards business instead of medicine. So as a business counselor, that's why I have my 5 questions. One of them is this pure oxygen?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, 100%, okay. That's one question. And the other one is, do those that are performing the treatment, are there any certifications or licensures that are required for those that are performing the procedures
Yes.
and process?
Yes, we have certified hyperbaric technicians. Before, there was only one governing body that would oversee that licensure for either, on-label clinics or off-label clinics. Now there are other cropping up, which is, I think, a good indication in the industry. So now that there are different certifications that people can get, we just sent a vet that we treated that was just so overwhelmed and happy with his results that got that passion too and wanted to be a part of it. So we just sent him to Florida to get the treatment. To get the training. It's a week long. It's from the international. It's from IBOM. I can't think of that acronym right now, what it means, but I can tell you offline. And then he will do. So right now he is certified to operate the chamber under supervision. He can do 480 hours of OJT under supervision, and then he can run the chamber. We also have 2 other CHTs in the business as well. So he's volunteering right now.
Okay, that also answers my question is, are you state federally regulated?
So there are no federal and state regulations. We are not a state that has, there are about 11, I believe, right now that have state regulations around off-label clinics. We are not one of them. However, we have a federally FDA-approved chamber which is as much as we can do. And we follow every guideline that we have to follow to the T. We even take those extra measures of, like I said, we have a doctor on site, those types of things. It's a blessing and a curse that there are no requirements. And I think that will change after time.
As your industry grows, I'm sure that it will.
It will.
Yeah.
It'll have some hiccups, but I think ultimately it will be better.
Nothing invites regulation like success.
Yeah, exactly.
How many treatments are recommended before you'll see? I know you said there were a minimum of 5 treatments.
Sure.
Okay, at that point, do you do a reevaluation?
It depends on the indication. Pre and post surgery, 5 treatments. Just general health and well-being, you're not going to really get that until you have 5 consecutive treatments. Remember, this is Monday through Friday.
Right.
So we do evaluations on longer treatments in between, depending on what their indication is. But we follow the protocols that have been proven in this country and others as the most efficacious.
So I want a quick observation. One is all the work that's happening in football around concussions. I mean, maybe Virginia Tech or somebody like that is a potential partner. I don't know if you've ever had it. I mean, you smiled, so you must know something about what's going on there. But I guess my question, or could you just kind of speak to, I mean, there's a sense that anything outside of standard practice for Western medicine and insurance is a hard time getting in, right? And that seems like what's going on in here. So could you speak to like how that's going and what is the likelihood that this could be sort of mainstream? Like why is it not? Why is this barrier still there?
It stinks. That's my first response. Why it's not happening has a lot to do with the fact, I'm not a conspiracy theory person, so don't take this the wrong way, but with the fact that nobody is going to become rich from providing oxygen as a therapy. So because of that, there are not people and organizations with huge, deep pockets willing to fund the right types of treatments. And so that's what you need. You need those randomized controlled trials with hundreds and hundreds of people before you get to that point. We don't have those pockets. We're people like me, and there are many, many doctors, so don't misunderstand me, many doctors that are out there pushing this. But it is still small in comparison to the other things that are being pushed in mainstream medical. And so that's one of the real barriers. So the research isn't there to the standards of what they're saying is required. It's a little backwards because, and I keep using TBI as an example, but in our military and in mainstream medicine, when somebody has a traumatic brain injury, they're treating the symptoms. And so it's okay for them to give all of these drugs that are not FDA approved for the treatment of TBI. They're not FDA approved. I mean, there are guys in the military that are getting ganglion blocks. Imagine getting this giant needle in your neck to actually prevent you from having post-traumatic stress feelings. So basically don't feel anything, see a bunch of stuff and don't feel anything. It's not FDA approved for that, but they're using it. Everybody's getting Botox in their head for headaches. That's not FDA approved for headaches, but they're using it. We have a bit of a hurdle that we have to jump through, and it's sad because it's oxygen. It's what happens when you get sick. You get into an ambulance, somebody comes to your house, it's the first thing they give you, oxygen. So it's unfortunate. We have hurdles. I think we are going to overcome them. There are people pushing for this. There are organizations pushing. There are doctors pushing to really propel this and get it recognized as a standard of care and treatment like it is in other countries. It's been slow going.
So to get it to that level, it has to go through such a rigorous standard of research and testing, and that's very expensive to do, and so people really don't want to fund the testing.
It is, and there's a lot of research, a huge body of research out there, but they're not looking at that because it's not big enough. And also, I'll get to you in 1 second. Also, you can't produce a sham without getting too deep into this with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. A sham is something you have a control group. One group gets it, the other group doesn't. Well, it's really hard to produce a sham with hyperbaric because they have to feel as if they are going down. They have to feel the pressure. Even if they breathe room air as opposed to oxygen, 100% oxygen. And that's part of our issue too, is that you really can't produce that sham for that randomized control trial.
Okay, well, we have to wrap it up. Thank you very much, Chair. That was very good.